Hello. I know it's Friday and it's a few days later than we usually record, but it's time for another episode of the Big D podcast. Before I bring in Alex back from the woodshed, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page where you can see all my content. You can test me on some trivia if you want. I'm always in for some trivia questions. Also, check out the Big D podcast on Spotify and Apple. So, back from taking the missus out for Valentine's Day, mowing lawns, and repairing his iPhone screen is Alex.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Dylan. Glad to be here. A little later than usual, but better late than never, as they say. It's been a very interesting week for me, but as always, glad to be back in the show. So happy to be here.
You must have been in Miami when the Dolphins got their coaching staff all figured out, right?
I mean, it seems like former legends just reunited. I mean, Sam Madison, Patrick Surtain back coaching the assistant coaching the defense. We're bringing the boys back together. We just need some Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas on that defense. We'll be good to go.
Yeah, you'd rather have Zach Thomas in Canton more than Miami right now, right?
That's probably pretty accurate, yes.
Okay, so I figured we start this episode by talking about one man and one man in particular. The GOAT of receivers right now. Okay, he's not Jerry Rice just yet, but maybe how about the best receiver in football? The year of Cooper Kupp.
It has been the year of Cooper Kupp for sure. And how poetic is it to add a Super Bowl MVP award on top of his already incredible season and the plenty of awards he's given his fantasy football owners throughout the year.
So let me tell you Cooper Kupp's year if I can write it up. In the regular season, 145 catches for 1,947 yards and 16 touchdowns. I'm just saying, if you drafted, and Cooper Kupp was not the first wide receiver to go off the board. I think it was like a 4th, 5th rounder in most leagues. Who would have been like the number one receiver? Probably Tyreek Hill.
Devontae Adams, maybe.
Devontae Adams, maybe DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah. Definitely Tyreek and Devontae were up there in the most of the drafts I was seeing. But yeah, no, I mean, Cooper Kupp, I mean, he's got to be the biggest value fantasy asset of the whole year. I mean, you end as the most dominant fantasy football player. Him and Jason, we've been talking about Miami too much. Him and Jonathan Taylor, I mean, obviously took the fantasy football leagues by storm this season. And I mean, there's not much better you can get than Cooper Kupp in the 4th or 5th round, like you said.
And then in the playoffs, all he did was catch 33 balls for 478 yards and 6 touchdowns.
I mean, it's just a continuation of everything he's been doing all season. I mean, getting the receptions, getting the yardage, getting the touchdowns, especially. I mean, it's everything you can hope for and more in a wide receiver. I mean, Matthew Stafford, big shout out to him. I mean, Matthew Stafford, Super Bowl champion that is now. But it's just the LA Rams went all or nothing, and it paid off. You bring in a quarterback that is better than Jared Goff, which is really, I think, just what they were looking for, a guy who can lead you to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl for you. Obviously, Goff took the Rams to the Super Bowl and did not have the greatest of Super Bowl performances. But, they did it their way, and they did it the McVay way, and it sure paid off for them.
Alex, I was really impressed with how Cooper Kupp played with how decimated the Rams receiving corps was, because Robert Woods tore his ACL early in the year. Tyler Higbee missed the Super Bowl, and then Odell Beckham tore the same ACL against the same team for the second consecutive year.
Yeah, it just seems like, they asked Cooper Kupp to do it all, and even that wasn't too big of an ask for him. I mean, that just shows how big of a superstar he really is. I mean, it's not a one-hit wonder when you come into a situation like that, because I mean, you hit it right on the head, especially in the Super Bowl. I mean, you've got the Cincinnati Bengals knowing that Cooper Kupp is by far the most dangerous weapon on that LA Rams offense, and sure, Eli Apple wasn't going to be able to do much to stop him, and it didn't really seem like much of the rest of the Cincinnati Bengals defenders could do much about him either. I mean, you could know he's getting the ball every play of the game, and it seems like Matthew Stafford just still finds a way to get that ball to Kupp, and Cooper Kupp still finds a way to make the play. So, I mean, highly impressive throughout the season, highly impressive throughout the playoffs, highly impressive throughout the Super Bowl. Just an all-around amazing year, and honestly, Cooper Kupp got one MVP vote. I think I saw one vote. I'm just gonna reiterate one of my biggest frustrations when it comes to the NFL, and just change the NFL MVP to Quarterback of the Year award. I mean, it's so ridiculous how just completely it's the only thing they care about when it comes to the MVP races. It's just which quarterback had the most impressive year, had the best numbers, whatever you want to go off of. But it's not a fair award. It's not a fair trophy. I mean, the Rams would not have been Super Bowl champions without Cooper Kupp. They might not have even made the playoffs with Cooper Kupp. And you're telling me that that's not a most valuable player candidate, more than one vote? I'm sick of the MVP award, and I think it just needs to, they need to retool it, because it's just a Quarterback of the Year award.
Yeah, and by the way, what happened to the Aaron Rodgers guy? Oh, wait, he lost to the San Francisco 49ers, but that's a story for another day.
Yes, it is.
So, Alex, I told you that Cooper Kupp scored 6 receiving touchdowns this postseason. Do you know who's got the record?
Record for postseason touchdown receptions
in a season?
In one season. A receiver who's made it deep in the playoffs a lot. I immediately think of New England, but New England hasn't really had that many standout receivers throughout that dynasty. I'm just gonna guess and say Randy Moss.
No.
All right. Devontae Adams.
No.
I don't know.
You want a hint?
Sure.
Aaron Rodgers is probably sick of him catching touchdowns against the Packers.
In
the playoffs.
Yeah, I immediately think of a Saint or a Michael Thomas. Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen?
No.
I don't know. Let me hear it.
Larry
Fitz? Really?
2008, when the Arizona Cardinals almost won the Super Bowl.
Lost to the Steelers. Okay. Yeah. See, that's not surprising, because Larry Fitzgerald is the ultimate legend. But the Cardinals, a Cardinals receiver wasn't really something that was popping up in my head there. But all right, interesting. Good for Larry Fitzgerald. One of my favorite players of all time who has never worn a Dolphins uniform. Fun fact about Larry Fitzgerald.
All right. I finally stumped it. You need to stump me with some trivia ones. How about you come on the podcast and next week trivia, and like you come up with a trivia question for me?
All right. I can make that happen. All right. Where are we going from here? Let's see. There are, we've been talking about it a lot leading up to the Super Bowl. It's been a nice year in the sense of, two teams going to the Super Bowl who aren't, the stalwarts of the deep playoff pushes. Obviously, the Cincinnati Bengals this year won their first playoff game for the first time in 31 years. Not only did they win one, but they made it all the way to the Super Bowl before, unfortunately, losing to the LA Rams, who have had some recent playoff success, but it's been a little up and down for the St. Louis / LA Rams in the last couple decades. I want to hear, Dylan, I want to hear a team that pops into your head with the ability and potential to maybe make a surprise Super Bowl run like we saw from the Cincinnati Bengals this season.
I don't know if it'd be a surprise Super Bowl run, but if you ask me in terms of Super Bowl favorite, the Bills have got to be the favorite for Super Bowl next year with Josh Allen, the most talented quarterback. I didn't say best, but most talented quarterback. But
Gotcha.
in terms of a team capable of making a surprise run in the Super Bowl,
a team that maybe might be able to make an offseason splash that can really, take either the LA Rams approach of just going all in, or the Cincinnati Bengals approach of just, building around a couple few nucleus pieces and kind of building from there. Go either way with it.
Tennessee Titans.
Okay. All right, I could see the Titans adding a couple pieces.
I look at the your ex-Dolphin quarterback as position A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
Because Ryan Tannehill's not capable of winning a Super Bowl. We saw Joe Burrow who was sacked 9 times in that game, outplayed Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Because Ryan Tannehill is not a very good quarterback. That's how that happens.
Well, then how did we get the number 1 seed over Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow?
A lot of help, mostly by a guy named Derrick Henry for the first half of the season. And then, fortunately for the Titans, they get to play the Jaguars and the Texans twice a year. So
okay. Wait a minute.
I know.
What's the record against the Bills and Dolphins this year?
Right. And the Colts. You can throw the Colts in there too.
By the way, what happened when you guys played the Titans? What happened when you played the Titans in Nashville? They kicked your sorry butts out of the playoffs.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about that game. But yeah, either way, I definitely agree with you that I think they get if the Tennessee Titans can bring in a really solid plug-in quarterback that could step into that Tennessee
plug-in quarterback. Hell, get Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Someone you can just plug into the system and not have to worry about. Like, that's not necessarily just like a guy. I'm saying like someone that you can put in and have the confidence that you don't need to game plan around, that you don't need to have all the focus on Derrick Henry. Some guy that can scare you in the air as opposed to having Derrick Henry on the ground. But honestly, I think the Tennessee Titans, as long as they stay healthy next year, they could very well. They probably are a quarterback away from really making a Super Bowl run. So I definitely agree with that pick. I have another team from the AFC that pops in my head. So
wait a minute. You're picking the Pittsburgh Steelers, aren't you?
I am not, believe it or not. I'm picking a team who I could see have a similar run to a little bit.
Oh, I see. I know who you're picking. You're picking the Colts.
No, not wrong again, Dylan. I may not be able to stump you on trivia, but my Super Bowl splash chasing team for next season is going to be the LA Chargers.
Ooh, I like the way you're thinking.
Obviously, Justin Herbert is a star in the making. He is a young quarterback on the cusp of trying to do what Joe Burrow has done in his second season and take his team to the Super Bowl. You obviously have Austin Eckler, one of the most dynamic running backs in the NFL. Keenan Allen, one of the most electric receivers in the NFL, one of the best yak guys in the NFL. Mike Williams had a big year. One thing about the LA Chargers that maybe some people might not quite know about? They've got the 3rd most cap in the NFL. Obviously, that's not going to all go straight to free agents. You got to save some of that for draft. You've got to re-sign some guys. But still, having the 3rd most cap and one guy that scares me to death, but one guy I've been hearing be linked to the LA Chargers.
Godwin.
No, possibly, but I've heard a couple rumors lately about, and I think this would be this. I think this one addition could completely turn the Chargers into a Super Bowl team. Mike Gesicki. I've been hearing the Miami Dolphins, because the Miami Dolphins have Emmanuel Ogbah and Mike Gesicki, both coming up as free agents this offseason. And although the Miami Dolphins do have the highest cap in the NFL, will they give Mike Gesicki and Emmanuel Ogbah those extensions? Who knows? Well, I'm not sure. But if they were to let one go, and Mike Gesicki is that guy, imagine Mike Gesicki in the tight end position for the LA Chargers, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Gesicki, and Mike Williams in that offense. That sounds like a terrifying offense to me. You give them all of those weapons on offense with still the third most cap space in the NFL. I think the LA Chargers could do a mix of what the Rams and the Bengals have done. Throw a bunch of money at people, bring in a bunch of high-profile guys, and still use your young core nucleus to lead yourself to a Super Bowl. I think the Chargers could very easily make a very nice run at a chance at the Super Bowl next season.
Well, two problems with the Chargers. One, I think Brandon Staley just called the timeout in your plan. And B, did you see LA's defense, or maybe more so lack of run defense last year?
Yes. However, another problem the Chargers always have is injuries. I mean, Derwin James is got to be one of the most unluckiest talented young players in the NFL. It seems like he recently has not been able to stay on the field, and that has definitely hurt at least their passing defense. But that's why they've got the cap space. Sign a couple defensive studs, a defensive lineman, maybe a nice little linebacker, add a couple pieces of that defense, and I don't know.
I will say I do like your Chargers take, because with Justin Herbert on his rookie contract, LA doesn't have to worry about him for the next year or so. Now, next year, when Justin Herbert will probably get a stupid contract extension in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 million, that might be another story.
You're very right about that. However, next season, Chargers might spend big. That's book it.
So, the LA Rams went all in and were rewarded handsomely with the Matthew Stafford blockbuster trade. What team should be looking at going all in and making a big time quarterback move?
Well, I think you definitely kind of previewed that very nicely with the Ryan Tannehill Tennessee Titans talk. I think the Titans could be a team to look out for, because they've got so many solid pieces already. They're in a relatively weak division. I think that the Titans would probably be interested in looking at bringing one of these big time guys. And another team that you mentioned earlier as well. And I'm honestly these were the two teams I was thinking about when you brought up this segment, but the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, if the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously they still have weapons. They've got some really nice young pieces in Najee Harris and Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. They've got some great young studs on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, unfortunately for them and unfortunately for Steelers fans, had been hurt by Ben Roethlisberger in the last couple of years, just because of his age just growing and his play kind of unfortunately falling off from the point it once was. But you bring in a nice stud quarterback into Pittsburgh with that environment, with that defense, with those weapons they've got on offense. I think the Steelers could be a team that would definitely be looking to bring in a nice quarterback. Obviously, the situation's a little murky over there right now with Ben retiring. Do I think the next season's Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback is on their current roster? I would have to say no. So I definitely think the Steelers, like you said, the Titans are definitely two teams to look for when it comes to adding a big name quarterback and trying to make a run.
I mean, I want to say the Titans, but I felt like we've already said that. You already took my other team I was going to say. How about the Washington? What are they now? The Washington Commanders or something, because I think we could safely say Ryan Fitzpatrick looked like he was a 39-year-old bearded quarterback. It's not Taylor Heineke.
What do you mean? We didn't even see Ryan Fitzpatrick play last season.
Well, he might join Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger playing picnic games with the kids, but I look at Washington and think those guys have got a great defensive line. I really like Antonio Gibson. I think Terry McLaurin deserves having somebody as a competent quarterback. And I'm just saying, you really think that you really think the Dallas Cowboys are going to just walk away with the NFC East again? It seems like nobody can grab a hold of that division. I think Washington's the team. I should be looking at one of these guys. I really like Ron Rivera as a head coach.
Yeah.
You imagine what Russell Wilson and Terry McLaurin could do?
Yeah. No, the Washington's definitely a good shout. I mean, you add a guy like Russell Wilson, like you said, and that could cause some problems, especially like you said that. I mean, that NFC East is a revolving door. It just seems like every year there's a new team that steps up, or no teams that step up to try and win that division. But I think Washington's definitely a good shout. I'm a little surprised you didn't say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for this little topic, because obviously, with Tom Brady, we assume is retiring. I mean,
wait a minute. I'm not 100%. I think Tom Brady will be back next year.
Yeah.
I think he's pulling a Brett Favre.
I was just about to say, is this a Brett Favre where he comes in and out and in and out and in and out? It's tough. I was very confident that Tom Brady wasn't going to retire, and then he announced it. But, I mean, it seems like he wants to spend time with his family. Whether or not he realizes this offseason that he might regret that decision and decide that, I got plenty of time to spend with my family, but only a little bit of time left to play in the NFL, who knows? I mean, obviously, I'm hoping he stays retired. And if he does, I think Tampa would be in the market for a quarterback. But who knows? Maybe Bruce Arians knows something we don't. But moving on to a final section, a segment for us. We talked about Cooper Kupp a lot at the head of this show, and it's just, nice to see one of those fantasy players kind of come from one of those mid rounds, have a dominant season in fantasy and in the NFL. And I just kind of want to, I want to hear if you have a guy, fantasy football players, NFL fans, get out your pens and paper, start taking some notes, because I want to hear a guy that Dylan might see replicate Cooper Kupp's season this year.
It's easy. It's a wide receiver.
Okay.
It's a wide receiver who, I don't know if he played against you guys week 17, but you should be quite familiar with him.
Week 17. So not week 18, week 17.
Correct.
Tennessee. You think AJ Brown is going to be the next Cooper Kupp next season?
I'm saying I think AJ Brown has got all the potential. Did you see his target share last year?
No.
I mean, I love AJ Brown's target share. And
absolutely.
And I feel like AJ Brown has got the chance of being not just the guy, and then one of the guys, but maybe the guy in fantasy.
Yeah. I do like AJ Brown. The biggest problem with AJ Brown, I feel like, is Ryan Tannehill. And back to what we've been saying, if the Tennessee Titans go big and find a replacement quarterback, which I think is definitely a key aspect of why you're giving this AJ Brown call, he could be a monster. Absolutely.
How about these games last year against the Chiefs? 8 for 133 and a touchdown. Next week against the Colts, 10 for 155 and a score. The big Thursday night game against the Niners, 11 for 145 and a score. And the playoff game, 5 for 142 and a score. I'm just saying, AJ Brown's a man amongst boys.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's faster and probably bigger than Cooper Kupp.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And everyone was talking about when Julio Jones came in, like Is Julio going to stay healthy? If he is healthy, how much reps is he going to take from A.J. Brown? Julio Jones was a non-factor this season. So it definitely goes to show that A.J. Brown is the number one guy without a shadow of a doubt. I don't know if anyone was really questioning that when Julio got brought in, but I mean, I know I was at least a little concerned about, Julio's a name. Obviously, he's not going to be there every week, but he's not going to be there every week. The weeks that he is there, you got to watch out for him. Obviously, that did not necessarily come to fruition. Was a weak year for Julio Jones this season, and honestly, just made A.J. Brown look even better. And he really carried that Tennessee Titans receiving corps. So I think A.J. Brown is definitely a stud. I think in the right situation with a better quarterback, I think he could absolutely be a number one fantasy football receiver next year. One guy I want to bring up, I don't think necessarily he can make a Cooper Kupp transformation. I don't think he will necessarily be in the conversation for top 1, top 2, top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. But one guy I really am interested to watch a lot of next season. Unfortunately for him, he just plays on a terrible team. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, how about the second half of the season he had for the Detroit Lions? If the Detroit Lions could ever get that franchise figured out and really, they've got some pieces. I love Dan Campbell as a head coach. DeAndre Swift is one of the best young running backs in the NFL. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think that man has some potential to be a really nice receiver in this league. Obviously, is Jared Goff the guy that's going to win football games for the Detroit Lions? Didn't happen very much this season, but if Dan Campbell can really have, this is going to be his first real full off season after coaching the team, after, seeing what he has to work with and then making the adjustments and making the improvements to his team after a full season. I think the Detroit Lions have potential to maybe not, I'm not going to say they're going to be in the playoff chase, but I think they might slowly grow from the bottom of the barrel teams that we've seen. And I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe, like I said, doesn't have the ceiling of a Cooper Kupp, A.J. Brown, top 5 fantasy receiver. He's just a guy that I'm really going to be interested to watch next season and kind of see him grow, because I think he's got all the potential in the world. And he had a great second half of the season playing on the Detroit Lions, which you have to give him credit for that.
Probably won a few people some fantasy leagues.
Absolutely.
So thanks for hopping on, Alex. I don't know if you'll notice, but Alex experienced a technical glitch. The old laptop battery ran on a power, so his cat needed to restart the power. So thanks for hopping on, Alex, and hopefully we'll be talking maybe a Dolphins Jags AFC Championship game soon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Don't sign me up for that. I will fly. We can drive up to Jacksonville. We can drive down to Miami. But if that ever happens, Dylan, we're going to that game. All right.
We're not flying to London, though.
Yeah, maybe not flying to London. I'm gonna have flashbacks about the Jaguars in London. So maybe not about that. But whether north, whether south, I'll make that trip with you. But
would you make it? Would you make it if they played a Super Bowl in Hawaii?
Well, they can't play a Super Bowl, Dylan.
I'm kidding.
But yes, sure. If the Miami Dolphins make the Super Bowl in the next 10 years, I am going to probably take out a small loan and really not make the greatest financial decision, but it'll be worth it.
10 grand?
Yeah, it's all right. I'll just call it a student loan. Maybe it'll get forgiven. Who knows? But but anyways, thanks for having me on, Dylan. It's a pleasure to be here as always. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be discussing next time we meet, but I'm sure we'll get something going, and fins up.